At 2:19 a.m., Jamal Carter woke to something that wasn't quite a sound, more like a whisper pressed against the back of his left ear, soft, wet, insistent, a pulse that didn't match his own. He stayed still, listening. The apartment was quiet, refrigerator humming its usual tune, pipes ticking somewhere in the walls. Outside, a bus hissed past and disappeared. The whisper remained. Jamal slid a hand up through his hair and flinched. Right there, tucked behind the curve of his ear, sat a lump about the size of a pea. Hot, tender, wrong. He pushed himself out of bed, crossed the cold floor to the bathroom, and flicked on the vanity light. The mirror showed a face thick with interrupted sleep. Eyes bloodshot, stubble shadowing his jaw, hair compressed on one side from where he'd been lying. He turned his head and brushed his hair back. The skin behind his ear was red and swollen tight. At the center sat a dark pinpoint, like a freckle that hadn't existed yesterday. He pressed gently, winced. The ache pulsed harder, a tiny drumbeat under skin. Pimple, he told himself. Ingrown hair. Maybe a bite. He ran a washcloth under cold water, held it against the lump until the throbbing dulled, then went back to bed. For an hour he drifted in and out, counting breaths. The whisper came and went. When his alarm buzzed at 5:30, the ache woke with it. In the kitchen, he made coffee on autopilot. Kettle clicked. The cheap overhead bulb flickered. He checked the lump with 2 fingers while steam rose from his mug. Still there. Maybe bigger. He swallowed the anxiety with his first sip. Great, he muttered. Perfect day for this. At the warehouse, noise swallowed thought. Forklifts beeped, pallets crashed, orders barked over radios. Jamal smiled on muscle memory, moving boxes, joking with co-workers. Every time he turned left, his hard hat grazed his cheek, and the lump throbbed in answer. By 9 a.m., sweat ran down his neck, making the sore spot burn so sharply he ducked into the break room and splashed cold water on it. "Everything good?" Marcus, his shift supervisor, called from the doorway. "Just a stupid zit," Jamal said, forcing a grin. "Behind my ear. Warm compress tonight. Don't pick at it." "Man, I would never," Jamal said solemnly, then rolled his eyes as soon as Marcus left. At lunch, he texted his brother, Devon. "Do glands swell from stress?" Devon replied instantly. "Yes, also from bites, also from life. You okay?" "Yeah, just annoying." By afternoon, the ache had changed. Not sharper, stranger. Heat radiated along the bone behind his ear. A faint pressure climbed toward his scalp. Once, while stacking boxes, he felt a single electric pop that made him drop the crate and curse. "Go sit," Marcus ordered. No argument allowed. 5 minutes. In the bathroom, Jamal angled his phone flashlight and leaned into the mirror. The lump was marble-sized now, skin shiny. That central dot looked darker, like a tiny open pore. When he breathed, he could swear it pulsed in time. He cleaned it with a paper towel, dabbed some hand sanitizer on it, probably a terrible idea, and went back to work. The rest of the shift, the world narrowed to boxes and weight and the pulse under his skin. After close, he rode the bus home with his hood up. Detroit blurred past. Neon signs, rain-slick pavement, the glow of other lives. Back in his apartment, he took a hot shower, letting water drum on the sore spot. The heat helped. For one blissful minute, the ache faded. He exhaled, forehead against tile. When he stepped out and dried his hair, the pain returned, brighter for having gone. He pulled his hair aside and froze. The dark pinpoint had opened into the thinnest slit, and as he watched, So close the mirror fogged with his breath, something just beneath the surface shifted. A shiver ran under the skin, small as a blink. Jamal's stomach dropped. He held still, hardly breathing. The slit glistened. Nothing moved. He laughed once, a breathless sound that wasn't really a laugh. "Okay," he said out loud to the empty bathroom. "You're tired. It's a pimple. Stop being gross." He patted on more hand sanitizer, definitely a terrible idea, covered it with a square of gauze, and climbed into bed with an ice pack wrapped in a dish towel. The cold numbed the ache enough to let him drift. At 2:03 a.m., he woke to the whisper again. Closer now, a pressure from the inside out. He lay rigid, palms sweating. The room was dark except for the streetlight line across the ceiling. He reached up and felt the gauze, damp, warm. His breath quickened. He slid out of bed, flicked on the bathroom light, and peeled the tape back carefully. Clear fluid beaded at the slit. The skin around it was darker now, bruised at the edges. He swallowed and leaned in. Something thin and pale rose into the opening, like a thread tasting air, then slipped back inside. Jamal jerked backward so hard his shoulder hit the doorframe. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." His hand shook. He grabbed his phone, scrolled to Devon with clumsy thumbs, and hit call. It rang twice. "Jamal." Devon's voice was sleep rough. "What's wrong?" "There's something in me, behind my ear." It moved, a beat of silence. "Is it a tick?" "I don't know. It's under the skin." "Okay, listen to me." Devon's voice snapped into focus. "Steady. Don't squeeze it. Don't poke. Put a clean gauze on it. I'm coming. It's 2 in the morning. I'm coming." The call ended. Jamal stood there with the phone still pressed to his ear, heart pounding so hard the world blurred at the edges. He tore open a fresh gauze pad with his teeth and pressed it gently to the spot. The pressure inside answered back, a small, insistent thud. He paced the living room barefoot, lights off, counting his breath. He tried to pray and couldn't find the words. He tried to think of anything else and found only the mirror image burned behind his eyelids. The slit, the shimmer, the pale thread. 15 minutes later, keys rattled. Devon slipped in, hoodie over pajamas, hair twisted under a durag. "Let me see," he said. "No hello." Jamal sank onto the couch and pulled his hair aside. Devon used his phone flashlight, hands gentle but sure. "It's swollen," he murmured. "Center opening looks like a breathing hole." "A what?" Devon met his eyes. "I'm not saying anything until a doctor does. Shoes. We're going." "I can't afford—" "Stop." Devon's voice softened. "We're not waiting on money for this." Jamal nodded because fear had climbed up behind his throat and sat there like a stone. He slipped into sneakers with trembling fingers. As they headed for the door, a damp warmth touched the side of his neck. He pressed the gauze harder, and for an instant, no more than a heartbeat, he felt a tiny, undeniable push from under his skin, as if something alive inside him had decided to meet the night. The emergency department at 3 a.m. was a fluorescent blur. Plastic chairs, stale coffee smell, televisions muttering weather updates nobody cared about. Devon guided Jamal to the check-in desk, one hand on his shoulder as if to keep him from collapsing. The triage nurse looked up, tired but polite. "What brings you in tonight?" Jamal hesitated, hearing how crazy it would sound. Devon jumped in. "Infection behind his ear, growing fast, possible abscess." The nurse typed briskly, then glanced at Jamal. "Any trouble breathing? Chest pain? Dizziness?" Jamal shook his head, clutching the gauze tighter against his skin. He felt the pulse beneath it, like a second heartbeat, small but insistent. They waited. 10 minutes. 20. The waiting room TV looped the same segment about a traffic accident. Jamal's leg bounced uncontrollably. Devon kept whispering, "You're okay. Just a lump. They'll drain it." Finally, a door buzzed open. Carter, a resident in navy scrubs, led them into a curtained bay. She introduced herself as Dr. Williams, asked Jamal to sit on the gurney. "Let's take a look." He pulled his hair aside with trembling fingers. The gauze was damp again. When Dr. Williams peeled it back, her eyebrows lifted. The lump was bigger. In the bright hospital light, the skin glistened, stretched almost to bursting. At the center, the slit widened slightly, as if it were breathing. Dr. Williams masked her surprise quickly. "Likely a sebaceous cyst. Infected. We'll numb the area, lance it, drain the pus." Pretty straightforward. Devon frowned. "But it moves." Dr. Williams glanced at him, then at Jamal. "Sometimes patients feel throbbing as fluid shifts. It can seem like movement. Nothing to worry about." Jamal wanted to believe her. He wanted desperately to accept her calm certainty. But he remembered the pale thread rising from the slit. He remembered the push against his gauze. "Can I see it?" he asked in a small voice. Dr. Williams sighed, pulled on gloves. "Let's just open it up. You'll feel relief after." A nurse appeared with a tray. Lidocaine, scalpel, gauze. Jamal gripped Devon's hand so tightly his knuckles whitened. "Deep breaths," Dr. Williams said. She injected anesthetic, waited, then pressed the skin lightly. "Feel anything?" Jamal shook his head, though he still felt pressure. Dr. Williams made a small incision. A thin stream of fluid oozed out, clear, tinged with yellow. The smell was sharp, sour. "See," she said, almost cheerful. "Simple drainage." But then the slit flexed. Jamal felt it even through the numbness. A ripple under skin. Something slid forward. Dr. Williams froze, suction tube in hand. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then a pale shape emerged, thin, segmented, writhing faintly in the light. The nurse gasped. Devon's hand clamped down on Jamal's. Dr. Williams quickly grasped it with forceps and pulled. It resisted for a heartbeat, then tore free with a wet sound. 4 centimeters long, slick, twitching even in the air. She dropped it into a metal dish where it curled and uncurled like something searching. Jamal gagged. Devon whispered, "Oh my God, oh my God." Dr. Williams cleared her throat. "Okay, that was, unexpected." The nurse whispered, "That wasn't a cyst." Dr. Williams nodded stiffly. "We'll send it to pathology. Right now we need to flush the cavity. Make sure nothing else remains." She irrigated the wound with saline, her face tight. Clear fluid washed out, followed by another ripple. This time, the forceps brought out a smaller one, barely 2 centimeters, squirming weakly. Jamal felt his vision narrow to a tunnel. "How many?" he croaked. Dr. Williams didn't answer. She dropped the second one into the dish, covered it quickly, and pressed fresh gauze to his skin. "We'll admit you overnight," she said quietly. "IV antibiotics, observation. Tomorrow morning we'll do imaging, make sure this isn't more extensive." Devon demanded, "What is it?" Dr. Williams's voice was flat. "Looks like larvae, possibly botfly. Rare but not impossible with travel. Did you leave the country recently?" Jamal shook his head violently. "I work at a warehouse. I've never even been out of the state." Dr. Williams's expression didn't change, but her eyes flickered. "Then we'll let pathology tell us." They wheeled him upstairs to a quiet ward. The room smelled faintly of bleach and plastic curtains. Devon curled up in the visitor chair, arms crossed, eyes wide open. Jamal lay still, afraid even to breathe. Every throb behind his ear felt like a warning. Every faint tick of the IV pump sounded like footsteps. At 4:07 a.m., when Devon finally dozed off, Jamal touched the bandage gently. For a moment, nothing. Then, so faint, he almost convinced himself it wasn't real. He felt it. A small, undeniable shift. Like something still alive beneath the gauze. Jamal didn't sleep. The IV hissed quietly beside his bed, dripping antibiotics into his veins, but no medicine could touch the panic inside his chest. Every time he shifted, he swore the pressure behind his ear shifted back, like something alive, refusing to be ignored. By morning, the room had changed. Sunlight filtered through thin blinds, painting stripes across the linoleum floor. Devon was still in the chair, hoodie pulled tight, hair sticking up. He stirred awake when a nurse came in with breakfast trays. "Any pain?" the nurse asked briskly. Jamal's laugh was sharp. "Yes, it feels like something's inside my head." "Because it is." The nurse offered a sympathetic smile, but said nothing. She changed the bandage, cleaned the wound with practiced hands. The gauze was stained pink and yellow. When she pressed gently, Jamal flinched. "There's still swelling," the nurse murmured. "Doctor will be here soon." Dr. Williams returned mid-morning with another physician. Older, calm, with graying locks pulled back into a neat bun. "This is Dr. Thompson," Williams explained. "ENT specialist. She'll be consulting on your case." Dr. Thompson examined the wound closely. Her gloved fingers were gentle but firm as she pressed around the swelling. "Tender here." Jamal winced. "Everywhere." Dr. Thompson nodded slowly. "We're scheduling imaging. CT scan first, maybe MRI. We need to know how deep this goes." "How deep?" Jamal repeated. Dr. Thompson's eyes met his. "We pulled 2 larvae. There may be more." The words hollowed the room. Devon's hand shot to Jamal's arm. Jamal's pulse thundered in his ears. 30 minutes later, he was in radiology. The CT machine whirred loudly as it rotated. Jamal lay perfectly still, a cage over his head, the buzzing filling his skull. He closed his eyes and tried not to think about what might be moving under his skin. Afterward, he sat in the hallway with Devon, both in silence, until Dr. Thompson reappeared with films in hand. She motioned them into a small consultation room where the scans glowed on a monitor. Jamal squinted. The cross-sections of his skull looked alien, all grayscale shadows. Dr. Thompson pointed to the area, just behind his ear. There. Even with no training, Jamal saw it. Irregular pockets beneath the skin and muscle, clustered like small caverns. "How many?" Devon whispered. Dr. Thompson's jaw tightened. "At least 4, maybe more. Some overlap, so it's hard to count." Jamal's stomach flipped. "Inside me, right now." "Yes," Dr. Thompson said simply. "This is not a simple cyst. We're dealing with multiple infestations. Surgery will be necessary." Dr. Williams added, "We'll schedule for this afternoon. General anesthesia. We need to explore the area thoroughly and remove all organisms. Otherwise, risk of secondary infection, tissue necrosis, even—" "Stop." Devon cut her off sharply. "He doesn't need worst-case scenarios right now." But Jamal had already heard enough. Necrosis. The word clung to his ribs like ice. He signed the consent forms with a shaking hand. The hours until surgery crawled. Nurses prepped him with IV fluids, clipped his hair near the site, explained protocols. Devon tried to joke, "You'll get a cool scar like a pirate," but his smile broke halfway. Jamal stared at the ceiling, whispering to himself, "It's coming out. It's coming out." At 2 p.m., they wheeled him into the operating suite. The room was blindingly bright, filled with stainless steel instruments and masked faces. The anesthesiologist leaned over him with practiced calm. "Deep breaths, Jamal. Count backwards from 10. He barely reached 7 before darkness swept him under. When he woke, the lights were softer, the room quiet, except for the beep of a monitor. His throat was dry, his tongue thick. He tried to move, but a bandage wrapped tight around his head anchored him still. Devon's face hovered above him, pale with worry. "You're okay. You're out." Jamal swallowed, voice raspy. "All gone?" Devon hesitated, just long enough. Jamal's chest clenched. "Devon, tell me." His brother's eyes flicked away. "The doctor said they found more than expected. 7, maybe 8. Jamal's stomach twisted. "Maybe." Devon's voice dropped. "They think they got them all, but one cavity was deep, near the bone. They couldn't be sure." The room tilted. Jamal gripped the blanket, nails digging into fabric. 7, maybe 8, and one they couldn't promise was gone. The operating room pulsed with the steady rhythm of machines. Beep, hiss, beep. While a dozen hands moved in precise choreography, stainless trays gleamed under the surgical lamps. The smell of antiseptic and cauterized skin hung heavy in the air. Dr. Thompson stood at the head of the table, eyes sharp above her mask. Beside her, Dr. Williams adjusted suction, while 2 scrub nurses anticipated every command with silent efficiency. Jamal lay unconscious, his head secured, a wide, sterile drape exposing only the swollen area behind his ear. "Scalpel," Dr. Thompson said quietly. The blade slid through inflamed skin with practiced ease. A thin line of blood welled, quickly blotted by gauze. Dr. Thompson deepened the incision, careful, deliberate, until the cavity yawned open. Almost immediately, movement shimmered beneath the light. "Jesus," one nurse muttered. Something pale shifted inside the pocket of tissue, writhing weakly, disturbed by air. Dr. Thompson steadied her hand, reached with forceps, and pulled. The lava stretched grotesquely, its segmented body resisting, anchored in damaged flesh. Finally, it tore free with a sickening pop, twitching violently as it dangled from the forceps. Into the dish it went, where it curled and uncurled as if seeking. "That's one," Dr. Thompson said, voice flat. "I want them all." They flushed the cavity with saline. More shapes stirred, smaller, but alive. Dr. Thompson extracted them one by one, each with its own stubborn grip. The metal dish filled slowly, a grotesque collection of pale, writhing bodies. Dr. Williams whispered, "How many is that?" 5, Dr. Thompson answered. "Keep count." The 6th was lodged deeper, nestled against the mastoid bone. Dr. Thompson angled carefully, forceps slipping twice before finding purchase. When she pulled, the lava clung with barbed hooks, tearing tissue as it resisted. Blood surged. "Clamp," Dr. Thompson barked. The nurse passed it instantly. She stemmed the bleeding, jaw tight, then resumed. With a final twist, the lava released. This one was larger, nearly 5 centimeters, its body pulsing faintly in the air before it hit the tray. 6, Dr. Williams said, voice thin. The room was quiet except for suction and the steady hiss of oxygen. Dr. Thompson leaned back for a moment, eyes narrowing at the cavity. "There's still something." She guided a probe deeper. The tip struck resistance. The monitor showed shadows pressed against bone, irregular, overlapping. Forceps. She reached carefully, slowly. The tissue trembled around her instrument. Then, with sudden force, a lava erupted upward, writhing violently, thicker than the others. It twisted, as though fighting to escape the light. One nurse gasped and stepped back. Dr. Thompson held steady, gripping tight. Get it contained. It came free with a wet, tearing sound, longer than her thumb, its body thrashing even outside the wound. Dr. Williams dropped it into the dish, slammed the lid shut. The noise of it scraping against metal echoed in the room. "That's 7, Dr. Williams said, her voice shaking. But Dr. Thompson's gaze remained fixed on the cavity. Her tone was grim. "There's space for another. Could be dead. Could be deeper." She probed again, flushing saline, searching every crevice of tissue. Nothing moved. No resistance, only raw flesh and slow bleeding. Finally, after minutes that stretched into forever, Dr. Thompson sighed. "We've cleared what we can. If there's another, it's dormant. We'll monitor post-op." The nurses began closing the wound layer by layer, stitching skin over the hollow that had once held invaders, gauze soaked with antiseptic pressed down, bandages wound tight around Jamal's head. The dish of larvae sat sealed on the tray, 7 pale bodies still writhing faintly in the shallow pool of fluid. One of the nurses couldn't stop glancing at it, her face pale under the mask. When it was over, Dr. Thompson stripped off her gloves, shoulders heavy. She looked at Dr. Williams. "Prepare the family. Be honest, but measured. Tell them we removed several. Tell them we'll know more after pathology. Don't promise more than we can." Dr. Williams nodded, though her own eyes betrayed unease. As they wheeled Jamal into recovery, the sealed dish was carried down a separate hall toward pathology. Inside, the larvae twisted blindly, pressed against plastic walls, still alive even after the light. And back in recovery, as Devon rushed to his brother's side, Jamal stirred briefly under anesthesia. His lips parted, a whisper barely audible. Still moving, Devon froze, gripping his hand tighter. "No, you're safe now, you're safe." But even he wasn't sure he believed it. Jamal awoke to the smell of bleach and the low hum of monitors. His throat was raw, his mouth dry. Bandages hugged the side of his head tight, pulling whenever he shifted. Devon was there instantly, leaning forward in the chair with dark circles under his eyes. "You're okay," he whispered. "It's over." Jamal swallowed, voice cracked. "All gone?" Devon hesitated too long. Then he forced a smile. "They removed a lot. You'll be okay." But the memory of Dr. Thompson's expression lingered. Serious, unreadable. Jamal didn't push. Not yet. The days after surgery blurred together. Pain meds, nurses changing dressings, doctors murmuring updates. Every time they peeled the gauze back, Jamal refused to look. He stared at the ceiling, gripping Devon's hand, afraid to see an empty hollow where something once lived. Dr. Thompson visited on the 3rd morning. She pulled up a chair, file in hand. Pathology confirmed multiple larvae, likely botfly species, though not typical for this region. Unclear how exposure occurred. Jamal rasped, "But they're gone." Dr. Thompson paused. "We removed 7. Imaging suggested 8 cavities. We believe one may have been empty, a shadow, but we cannot say with 100% certainty." His chest clenched. "So there could still be one inside me." Dr. Thompson's voice softened. "We'll monitor closely. Antibiotics, follow-up scans. If symptoms return, pain, swelling, you come back immediately." Jamal nodded faintly, but inside, terror bloomed. When Dr. Thompson left, Devon muttered, "Doctors never promise. Doesn't mean you're not safe." But neither of them believed it fully. 2 weeks later, Jamal was discharged, At home, the apartment felt smaller, walls closing in with every shadow. He avoided mirrors. He washed his hair carefully, fingers skirting the bandage, the scar. Sometimes late at night, he swore he felt pressure there again, a faint pulsing, like a whisper trying to return. He told himself it was nerves, healing. He told himself it was nothing, but doubt sat heavy on his chest. Devon stayed most nights, camped on the couch. "It's healing," he'd remind Jamal, pointing at the clean bandages. "Look, no redness, no pus. You're fine." But Jamal's dreams betrayed him. He saw the dish in the OR, pale bodies writhing against stainless steel. He woke, gasping, clawing at his bandage, convinced something was crawling out. At his 1-month checkup, the scar was healing well. Dr. Thompson traced the line with gloved fingers, nodding. "Good progress, strong tissue. No new swelling." "Then it's gone," Jamal said quickly. Dr. Thompson looked at him for a long moment, then said, "There's no sign of recurrence. That's what I can tell you today. Not yes, not no, just today." Back home, Jamal stood in the bathroom, hair tied back, mirror glaring under bright light. He pulled the bandage aside. The scar stretched thin and pink, jagged against his skin. He touched it gently. No pain, no heat. But deep inside, he swore he felt a flutter. He dropped his hand and whispered, "Stop. Stop imagining." Devon knocked on the door. "You okay?" Jamal forced a smile into his voice. "Yeah, just checking it." Weeks passed. He returned to work, moving slower. Hair always close-cropped now, scar visible but fading. Co-workers didn't notice, colleagues didn't ask. Only he knew the story stitched into his skin. Sometimes in the warehouse noise, when the forklifts beeped and pallets crashed, he felt it again. A faint shift behind his ear, like something waiting. He shook it off. He had to. But every night, lying in bed, in the silence before sleep, he pressed 2 fingers gently against the scar. And every night, he wondered if he was feeling the beat of his own pulse, or the echo of something that still lived. If you've experienced unexplained swelling, movement under your skin, or symptoms that don't resolve, don't wait. Trust your instincts and seek medical attention immediately. Early intervention can make all the difference.